Good day, Trevor. It's so good to see you. Thank you for coming on my High Road Leadership podcast. So, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks, Debbie. Yes, it's great to have an opportunity to chat with you. I always like talking about leadership with you.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
any opportunity is good, definitely.
So, for you tuning in today, and thank you so much for tuning in. We're still on the theme of High Road Leadership, working up towards my Live to Lead Leadership Summit, which is October 18th at the Stony Point Business Center in Hillsborough, Virginia. And I have taken this opportunity to reach out to Trevor Stockwell. He is also a certified John Maxwell team member, and he has written his first book. He's co-authored a book prior to this, but this is his first book, and I'm so excited about the topic today. And I thought it aligned really well with high road leadership. So I asked him to come on and talk a little bit about a couple things in the book that really stood out to me related to high road leadership. The name of his book, if you haven't seen it yet, first of all, it's a #1 international Amazon bestseller. And the title of the book is You Lead You, Self-Leadership Instead of Self-Sabotage. And I love the title because to be a good leader, we really need to look at ourselves first. There's two things. One, look at ourselves because we can't help others out of an empty cup. So we really have to focus on what we do. And that's what high road leadership is all about. Then secondly, how to help others achieve their goals and try and work through their pain points and their challenges to get to where they want to go. So again, Trevor, welcome. So glad you're here. So if you would like to talk a little bit about these topics as it relates to high road leadership, that would be great. The two things that I identified were making a positive difference and leaving your legacy. And one of the reasons why I've identified that because I meet a lot of people that feel like they're not contributing in this world and they really want to make an impact. And they also want to leave something valuable to the people that they know and they love, and maybe even some people they don't know. Like, what's their legacy? Can you talk a little bit about your writings in the book about these topics?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's the whole driver behind the book really was to do with potential and recognizing potential and then releasing it. So for my part of my journey is sort of frustration of not realizing some of my potential earlier on. And then you sort of look back and you realize that certain time has passed, could have actually made more of life or certain aspects of it. So the whole thing ties in really well with, am I making a positive difference now? So how conscious am I about how I spend my time, how I use my talents, my strengths and skills? How am I developing those skills to then make more of a positive difference? And I think it's one of those things where you have to be honest with yourself with regards to, am I leading myself well in the direction that I want to go? Am I leading myself at all? Or am I being sort of swayed around by circumstances and other people's opinions and everything else? Or am I being specific about where I want to get to? And then once you recognize and realize what that is, how can I then maximize the time, the energy, the resources that I have so that I'm focused as much as I can on that rather than get distracted or fall into procrastination and sort of suddenly, time has passed and you can't achieve everything that you wanted to within the set time. So I think that's the sort of the driver behind it all. And I think if people are honest, like even now, I've written the book. There can be moments, if I'm not intentional about it, that I can waste time or I can procrastinate. I can maybe not be as effective in certain areas or in relationships as I could be. So it all links really down to the how intentional are you with regards to what you want to do, and then what does that look like? How are you expressing that?
And I love how you talk about being intentional, and if you anyone who reads this book, and I highly recommend it, um, Trevor shares his story, like a little bit about his story growing up and some of the things and the challenges that he had to deal with and how he's turned his life around, looking at, who he is and how he shows up and what are some things that he can do to be a high road leader and actually help others along the way. So I love what you talk about intentional. And part of that is just being intentional.
Yeah.
figuring out what you need to do and what steps you need to take, and then making a plan and actually doing that. Um, can you talk a little bit about this quote I saw in your book? Because I absolutely love it. And it was um, essentially having to work on your inner self so you can affect your outer self. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things that you can easily miss the reality of that. But literally, like, if you think of emotional intelligence, if you're handling your emotions well, if you're leading yourself emotionally mature, you're going to respond to things better than if you're not thinking about it, or you haven't developed that aspect. Your feelings are going to be all over the place. You're going to probably hurt people, say something wrong, or um, break a relationship or something like that, which is going to harm you and several other people at the same time. But the more we're aware inside of what's going on, whether that's sort of how we're actually feeling, what we're thinking about as well is another aspect um, of the internal stuff. All of that makes a difference to how we behave, how well we behave, and then how active we are and how purposeful in different things. I think if we get distracted and think that everything is external, so say you're looking to, advance in your career, you get this position that you really want, brilliant, that's wonderful. But if you're not on a day-to-day basis aware of and developing, what you're thinking about, how you're leading your time and your thoughts, then the external position that you've got, you're not necessarily going to be as effective in it. You're not going to be as successful. You may not keep it. So if you start self-sabotaging and you know think the wrong things, say the wrong things to people, and then you have sort of self-sabotaging behavior, then it's all going to go pear-shaped. So the whole thing is, don't get to that point. Be
Mm.
specific and intentional about taking some time to be honest with yourself, and also to raise your awareness with regards to actually, you know, if I took the bias away that I think I'm all right and I'm generally a nice person, or I'm whatever, whatever, and actually stop and think, how do other people interact with me? What do they think about me? Am I a nice person to be around? Am I a good person to be in a team with? Or if I'm leading a team, am I a good leader? Whatever the scenario might be, because we can just almost assume that when the external stuff that looks like success happens, then everything's fine. We can sort of take the foot off the accelerator, or just not think about how do I develop and make where I am now better. I think if we don't focus on that, we miss out. And then obviously there's the chance that we just sabotage opportunities as well.
I love how you talk about mindset and how it affects, what comes out, right? So your
Yeah.
subconscious is pretty powerful. And what you think inside comes out on the other end, whether you realize it or not. And
Yeah.
that's why I love that quote that you have, because many people aren't really thinking about that. They're trying to figure out why they're not getting different results. And sometimes it's really mindset,
Yeah.
and mindset attracts. It definitely attracts. So I love that part of your book. Well, I want to thank you again for sharing with us today. I know we're running out of time, but is there any final key takeaway that you'd like to share with the viewers today?
I think it would just be more than anything to just encourage people that we can actually, we have a lot more power over our own lives than we realize. We can lead ourselves well. There will be certain things that we can't control, external events as well, and other people, how they respond to us potentially. But even within all of that, if we're really honest and intentional and aware, we can actually control a lot more of our lives and how successful we can be. Whatever, you know, people define success as, and it's different for different people. But we have a lot more power than we realize. So yeah, think about that. I would say, as you all go your separate ways and think about other stuff now, how can I actually use the power that I've got to lead myself to then be more effective when I help other people?
And that is a very powerful ending to our conversation. about you have talents. You've got the power. You just have to focus on trying to, decide what it is and how you can share it with other people and how you can make a difference. So I
Yeah.
love that. Just letting people know that they can do it, essentially. So if you'd like to hear more or read more about Trevor Stockwell's thoughts on self-leadership, you can again purchase his book. It's on Amazon. You Lead You, Self-Leadership Instead of Self-Sabotage. Just came out this year, February 2024. Also, you can visit his website, trevorstockwell.com, and learn more about Trevor himself. So thank you again for tuning in. Remember to stay here every Friday. We'll be talking about another segment on high road leadership leading up to the Leadership Summit on October 18th in Hillsborough, Virginia. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you, Trevor. Bye-bye.